You know, Palm Sunday hits different when you're honest about church. One minute, the crowds are waving palm branches, shouting Hosanna, like they finally found their king. The next, the cheers fade, and expectations crash, and many quietly slip away. Sound familiar? You show up for the worship high or the community vibe. It feels alive for a while. And then real life hits. The volunteer ask that never ends, the silent burnout, the boredom when your gifts just gather dust. Suddenly the Hosanna feels like it's just gone. You drift. And the church that you once loved starts feeling like something you're ready to quit altogether. But Jesus never settled for surface level welcome, and neither should we. You know, Jesus rides into Jerusalem on a borrowed donkey, lonely, just like Zechariah 9 said in Scripture. The crowds miss it. They want a conqueror, not a servant headed to the cross. And 5 days later, many of those same voices are silent or shouting, "Crucify." And this is the danger of surface level faith. It feels electric on Sunday but can't survive Monday. At Unquittable Church, we see this every day. People feeling broken by past hurts, burnout from endless giving, or maybe just bored because their passion was never invited in. The good news, though, Jesus invites us past the cheers into something deeper, committed, soul sustaining following. Look at how he lived. He served humbly without running into empty. He slept in storms. He invited his disciples, "Come away and rest a while." You know, the same king who entered Jerusalem gently offers us the same rhythm today. So this Palm Sunday, two of the six unquittable actions can help us move from hype to health. Monitor workload. You know, burnout doesn't announce itself with a warning sign. It creeps in when we say yes to everything and no to our own soul. Jesus never did that. He knew his limits and he honored the Father's pace. In your church or small group, start simple. You know, you can ask one honest question this week, like, how full is your plate right now? You know, leaders, you could check in before the next big push, or maybe give permission to step back without guilt. You know, when we monitor workload, we protect people from the slow drift that turns Hosanna into goodbye. We can give rest. Rest isn't laziness. It's obedience. You know, the Bible reminds us that Sabbath was God's original design for flourishing, not just a suggestion. Jesus modeled it perfectly so we could serve from overflow instead of exhaustion. You know, here's some practical ways you could start. You could say, maybe block one no work evening during Holy Week. You know, try a short Sabbath rhythm, like phones off. Maybe going out for some creation walks or honest prayer. In community, maybe celebrate when someone rests instead of shaming them for stepping back. You know, when we give rest, joy returns, purpose reignites, and church stops feeling like another burden. Pair these with like the actively listening and encouraging speaking so no one carries their burnout alone. Hey, why don't you add discover and allow engagement as well so boredom never gets the last word? And together, the six actions build gospel centered community that lasts through the cross into resurrection life. Your next step this week, I want you to, well, you don't have to keep chasing the next high only to crash. Jesus is still the King who meets you exactly where you are, broken, burnt out, or bored, and he offers healing, rest, and fresh purpose. This Palm Sunday, welcome him deeper. Then, just those regular cheers at the beginning. Let him carry what's weighing you down and let him show you the joy following on his terms. If this stirs something in you, you're not alone. I want you to head over to unquittablechurch.com and explore our resources and start building rhythms that make faith unquittable. You don't have to walk the road alone. Jesus is inviting you past the surface and welcoming you into the real thing, rest for your soul, purpose that lasts. Welcome the King and receive his rest.